Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at YCharts. This is a really powerful stock research platform designed for stock analysts, family offices, and fund managers, but it has some really neat features for individual investors. I really like the fundamental charts as well as the advanced fundamental stock screener. So let's dive into this platform and I'll help you decide if it's right for you. So the first thing I want to show you within YCharts are the dashboards. These are really customizable market dashboards that you can use to get an overview of the whole market or of an individual sector, or even dive into individual stocks. I really like these dashboards because they're so customizable. So here we're looking at a market overview dashboard. This comes as a template from YCharts. So all you have to do is one click and this is set up. You can see we're looking at the performance of major stock indices, as well as the performance of growth and value stocks, and even looking at stocks by market capitalization. Now, I also created my own dashboard, which shows you a little bit of the customizability here. So for this dashboard, I've added a chart showing Amazon fundamentals, price to earnings, and price to sales ratio, as well as a heat map showing holdings in the S&P 500. It's really easy to add even more to this dashboard. So you can add more fundamental charts, heat maps, scatter plots, technical charts. I'll show you how all of those work later in the video. You can also add lists of stocks, so these really work well as watch lists, as well as news and alerts. So next I want to show you what it looks like to dive into an individual stock in YCharts. We'll pull up Amazon here and you can see there's what looks like a pretty standard quote page. You get an overview of the stock as well as key metrics like its performance, valuation metrics, dividend yield, and financials. One thing that's really nice here is YCharts gives a rating from sell, buy, or neutral for all the stocks that it rates. There's thousands of stocks that have this rating. You also get a value score, a fundamental score, and essentially a fair value estimate based on historical multiples. So this can tell you if a stock is undervalued or overvalued and what the potential upside is from the current price. So a lot of this stock research is nothing groundbreaking. It's kind of what you would find in any major stock platform. Things like StockRover or Finviz come to mind. You can see performance versus the S&P 500 as well as competitor companies in the same sector, key stats and financials. There is a lot of data in YCharts, but again, none of it's groundbreaking here. What I think is really neat is this Y rating that I talked about earlier. You can get a little bit more information about how YCharts is coming up with these various scores and actually dig into the value score to see why, in Amazon's case, it's a 2 out of 10. So that can be really useful if you want a quick overview of a stock and you're just doing a quick pass through to see if a stock is worthwhile for your portfolio. Another thing that I think is really cool and a little bit groundbreaking about YCharts is this stress test panel. This zooms in on periods in the stock market that were essentially stressful. So we can see the 2022 inflation period, the coronavirus crisis measuring from February to the end of December in 2020, and you can see how Amazon stock performed against the S&P 500. And you can actually add more benchmarks and other stocks to this as well, so you can get a really good idea of what the risk of a particular stock is when the stock market isn't doing so well. And that can be really helpful for managing your portfolio drawdown during periods of volatility. The other feature of YCharts that I think is really worthwhile and makes this platform really stand out are the fundamental charts. So I'll pull up that same Amazon fundamental chart that I created earlier, showing price to earnings ratio, price to sales ratio, and diluted earnings per share. What's really cool is that you can visualize all of these metrics on the same chart and actually just move your slider and get a really see how those values are changing. So what's really cool is you can visualize all of these metrics on the same chart. As you move your slider, see how these values are changing over time. So this is a really nice way to visualize how a company's fundamentals are changing over time, whereas most platforms offer this information in table form only. So it's a lot easier to visualize changes over time in YCharts. That said, there are some platforms that offer similar functionality. Again, StockRover and Finviz come to mind, and I do have reviews on both of those. I'll include links to those in the video. One thing I like here is that you can also add other companies to these charts and do a benchmark comparison. So the charts can get a little bit busy. I'd recommend turning off some of these so you can see the lines a little bit more clearly. But this can be really helpful if you're trying to compare two stocks in the same sector and want to decide, which is the better value or which has more growth potential. These fundamental charts to me are the real value add of YCharts. It's also worth noting that you can save all of these charts and then pull them up in your dashboards that I showed you initially. So it's a really good way to keep track of changes over time. YCharts does also offer technical charts. These are relatively basic technical charts. They're not anything like what you'd find in, for example, TradingView. They're much more focused on long time scales. This is a platform designed for investing, not trading. So you'll see that the shortest time scale for bars is 1 day. That's sort of not very useful for most traders, but does work for most investors. You can see there's a list of a fair number of indicators here, mostly ones that are popular among investors. So things like Bollinger Bands, moving averages, moving average envelopes, things like that, as well as basic oscillators like MACD and RSI. To be honest, I don't love YCharts technical charts, and I actually do use TradingView alongside this platform if I want to look at a technical chart, particularly to find a good entry point in a stock. So now the next thing I want to show you in YCharts are the scatter plots. These are really similar to the bubble plots in Finviz, although I do like the bubble plots a little bit better because you can actually show 3 dimensions of data, whereas in YCharts scatter plots, you can only show 2 dimensions. So here on the x-axis, we have monthly returns over a 3-year look-back period, and then on the y-axis, annualized 3-year returns. So in this case, on the x-axis, I'm going to look for price to earnings ratio, and on the y-axis, we'll look for price to sales ratio. And now we can add a number of different stocks to this list to see how they stack up. So in this chart, we have price to earnings ratio on the x-axis and price to sales ratio on the y-axis. And then we can add any number of securities, ETFs, or even watch lists to this plot to see how they stack up and where they fall on this chart. So this can be really useful for comparing companies based on 2 metrics. Although again, in Finviz, you also get the ability to scale those points as bubbles based on a 3rd variable. So I think it's a little bit more helpful for really making apples to apples comparisons of stocks and seeing what companies either stand out for value or growth or other factors that are important to you. Another really useful and powerful feature of YCharts is the stock screener. So as you'd expect, this is a really advanced fundamental focus stock screener. So first, it's worth noting that while I've mostly focused on securities in this review, YCharts does offer information about bonds, treasuries, ETFs, mutual funds, and more. I'm going to continue looking at securities and equities here. And you can see YCharts gives you a ton of customization in designing filters. So for example, we can stick with price to earnings ratio as our main filter here and easily just search for a range. This is a pretty simple filter, but you're also able to put in your own equations, or you can filter stocks based on how they fall in a percentile of a metric. So for example, you can look for the top 10% of stocks in a particular sector by price to earnings ratio, or you can rank. So you can look for the top 10 stocks by price to earning ratio in a particular sector. So some really great filtering options there that I haven't seen in a lot of other platforms. The other thing that's nice is YCharts makes it really easy to sort for stocks by their YCharts rating. So in this case, I'm going to filter just for stocks that are considered attractive by YCharts. Once you have your stock results, YCharts will automatically fill the table here with any filters that you used. You can also create your own scoring models. And this is kind of a cool way to get more information about the stocks you're looking at and be able to quickly evaluate the stocks that come up in your screener. So for example, there's a risk score model here. This is built into YCharts. This can be a really good way to find either high risk, high return, or low risk, more moderate return stocks from the universe of stocks that met your screening filters. In addition to screening for your own stocks, YCharts offers a set of investment strategies. These are essentially model portfolios, and the platform gives you a little bit of information about these, but basically they're 35 stock portfolios based on things like large cap value, dividend yields, or value. So these can be somewhat useful if you're interested in model portfolios. I don't recommend these as portfolios that you should follow word for word. If you're looking for stock pick ideas, I definitely recommend checking out something like the Motley Fool Stock Advisor or even Seeking Alpha and its list of top stocks. And we do have reviews of both of those services as well. Now, the last thing I want to show you within YCharts are the portfolio management tools. These are pretty powerful, which is what you'd expect for a platform designed for things like family offices and fund managers. So you can see there's a bunch of public and shared portfolios that come with YCharts. I'm going to just pull up one here to show you kind of what the portfolio management tools look like. You can see how this is performing over time, how the assets are allocated, the top holdings, as well as risk metrics, including drawdown over time and standard deviation and performance. So you're kind of basically getting the same analysis of a whole portfolio as you would for a stock or an ETF. This can be really nice to dig into your holdings over time, and especially if you're trying to keep your portfolio balanced or avoid things like correlations that could result in more drawdown than you want during periods of market volatility. You can also use a stress test. So looking at your portfolio the same way that I showed you earlier for Amazon, where you're comparing over periods where the market has been highly volatile. This can be a really good way to balance returns in your portfolio against potential drawdowns during periods when the market is down. And finally, fundamental charts make it really easy to compare the performance or other metrics of your portfolio against the S&P 500. So this can be really useful for kind of digging into why your portfolio is performing the way it is. For example, if your portfolio has generally a higher price to earnings ratio than the S&P 500, that could explain some of the differences you're seeing in performance. So now let's take a look at how much YCharts costs. YCharts offers 4 plans: Analyst, Presenter, Professional, and Enterprise. The Analyst and Professional plans do offer subscription pricing that you can just sign up for online. The Presenter and Enterprise plan, actually, you have to call the company in order to get a quote. So the Analyst plan, probably what I'm going to recommend for most individual investors, costs $275 per month or $3,000 per year. The Professional plan costs $550 per month or $6,000 per year. So this is not a cheap software, especially compared to platforms like StockRover or Finviz, which offer a number of similar tools, including the ability to plot fundamental metrics, which I think is the main differentiator for YCharts and the main reason to invest in this platform. The Analyst plan, like I said, I think is going to be what most individual investors need. It offers the vast majority of tools that I showed you. The main thing you don't get are some of the portfolio tools. It also doesn't include custom branded reports, which can be important if you are running a family office, for example, and want to put your company's logo on reports that you generate using YCharts. But again, for individual investors, features like that aren't going to matter very much. Overall, I think that Analyst plan is enough for most investors, and the real question is whether that $275 per month or $3,000 per year is worth it. If you're considering YCharts, I definitely recommend taking it for a test drive. The platform offers a 7-day free trial. It's worth noting that Finviz and StockRover, the main competitors to this service, also offer their own free trials. I would definitely recommend taking advantage of all of those trials and testing out the platform side by side to see which one feels like it's best going to fit your portfolio. So overall, I think YCharts is a really powerful platform, but it is a bit pricey for most individual investors. That said, I do recommend giving that free trial a chance and seeing if this platform is right for you.